Welcome back, everyone. Today, I get the honor to talk with Annemarie Penny, the CEO and founder of Dreamore, a woman diversity and purpose led firm known for recruiting, career upskilling, and AI advisory. She's helped build thousands of startups over the last 30 years, ranked in Forbes, and regularly speaks on global stages. Anne Marie is what she calls a double phoenix, losing two homes to wildfires in both 2018 and the most recent ones in 2025. That experience fuels the transformational work she does today, building a more human future of work and sustainable wealth. From growing up on 100 acres in Arkansas without internet to becoming an investor, creative, and mentor, Anne Marie's story is all about grit, vision, and creating space for others to thrive. So thank you, Anne Marie. I am so excited to talk with you today.
I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes. So, as always, I like to start with a little bit of story. I love story, but just understanding what led you to creating Dreammower. How did your early life and your career shape your approach today?
Absolutely. And, here's the thing, it is our human experiences that make the stories, and that's our stories that make us human. So, that is very much for good or for bad. I've ended up having a life that has ended up with a lot of story because as a little girl, I taught myself to read when I was 3, and I still remember reading the King James Bible in the newspaper and hiding in the closet, wanting to be left alone. And they would knock on the door. And as a 5-year-old, I would say, "Go away, I'm busy." So here we are, fast forward decades later, and finally taking my power and embracing that, we affect the future. All of us do. We have that power. We affect each other. And that it sometimes feels very scary, but it's also really an opportunity to affect each other positively. So over the years, I literally and figuratively no longer hide in the closet. It's just funny that those were always my instincts. And even then, I couldn't hide. So I came to California when I was 19. I had a college degree. I'd always dreamed of being by the ocean. And I had $200 and a place to sleep for a few days. So this was really the immigrant story. And even though Arkansas is still in America, if you've been there in the country, it feels like another country. And so we're going to call it that. Over the years, I like to summarize what my life has become with much gratitude, that this is the benefit of hard work and relationships. And so anybody, no matter where you start, whether it's $200 or silver spoon or not even in a place that has any real opportunity, put forth that consistent effort and really focus on authentic relationships of people that can mentor you and people who really care about you. And actually, if you ask for help, you'd be amazed how many people are willing and able to help. So a stubborn girl like me that was so independent and not always asking for help, that's been another thing I've learned over the years. And certainly 30 years of running a recruiting business, it's entirely made of people. And so I'm very grateful after coming out of KPMG finance to have fallen into this career.
Thank you for sharing that. And um, on a side personal note, I wish my kids were the type that wanted to go read in the closet because they're starting like summer school over here and I'm trying to get them to read every day. And I wish they had a little bit of your spirit there. So,
It's different now. And, for good or for bad, there was no internet in my tiny little town. The internet hadn't invented yet because, I'm coming. All right. I read the tiny little library. I just went around the wall of my small town library reading books. And so, yeah, these kids these days, there's so much information coming at us through the screens. And it's just a different way of processing information. If you can find a way to get your kids to read books or anything that's long form, it is so much healthier for your brain. And I still love a
yeah.
paper book. It's tactile. You can feel it.
Yes. Oh, I am the same. I order books all of the time. So, yes, talking about that human connection, it's all about connection, even in your business now and the recruiting. And I think with just all the things going on, I have been saying again and again to my clients, like trust is so big right now. And the more that we can really connect with other humans in the way that we're talking to them, like you and I, or if we're showing up in video or sending those Voxer notes, like connection is so important. And so when you say, the future, keeping things human in the future of work and all of AI, will you share a little bit more, go into more detail? Like, what do you mean, or what are you doing?
I mean, here's the thing. I launched the first recruiting firm in Los Angeles to focus on .coms back in the 90s before anybody knew what that was. And so just a little bit of my redemption story, because by extension helped create this monster called technology that has certainly created a lot of incredible opportunity, but also it has reinforced our sense of isolation through just the way we communicate. And in the early days, we just wanted to get together with nerds and creatives and founders and, have interesting conversation. And then we lost a bit of that. Plus, with the pandemic, I think a lot of people are looking at the world as pre-pandemic and post-pandemic and just how dramatically things have changed in our greater isolation. And then that self-reinforces because I'm a total homebody. And I think a lot of people, you just get in a pattern and, I watch way more Netflix than I used to. And so trying to get back into those other patterns that, if you can get your groceries delivered, you don't even go to the grocery store. So being authentically human again is really looking at what is important. Just like if you don't have good diet and exercise habits, and then you really got to rev those engines and get back into that habit. And it doesn't come naturally at first. And then you get to the other side and you go, oh, wow, I feel so much better. Like, why didn't I do this a year ago or all the time? So, in our authenticity and our connections, it's very easy. And having run, recruiting teams that, would email if they hit their numbers. And I would say, hey, y'all, like, when did you last go out and meet a person for coffee? When did you last go and see your client? And they would say, oh gosh, but it's going to waste so much time. And then you're looking at the way many of us live our lives today, just to be able to stop for a minute and go, wait, is that really a waste of time? Even if it takes me an hour to drive across town in traffic to go be with my friends for coffee or lunch or dinner. It doesn't even have to be business at this point. It's just like, go outside and touch grass. That's why this expression exists. Where the opportunity is with AI currently, there's a lot of rhetoric around, it's going to take our jobs and, it has no ethics and, a lot of very scary conversation that, yes, there is that potential if we keep going in a direction and, let, certain elites go that way. In terms of what's a lot of the communication and training in AI tends to come from a lot of the IT and the engineering side of that, which tends to have a lot of male energy. Now, I want to set the record straight. As a women and diversity led firm, we love men. There's no, it's all the gender spectrums. So there's none of that conversation. It's just looking at coming at this from a recruiting standpoint, which is very human centric, and then building so many technology companies, which have sometimes forgotten that piece. We are blending that and looking at AI as the opportunity to let the machines do what they're really good at that our human brains aren't actually that good at. Like, do you do math in your head? I don't. But meanwhile, what we are capable of and what we should be leaning into and what is the possibility is our experiences and our stories, our true connection and our creativity, our feelings. There's a lot of conversation around AGI, general intelligence that's going to basically be thinking like a person. And that's all well and good. But, just like sometimes we can fake it for the screen and, we can run a filter on ourselves and look way prettier. But similarly, a lot of what the conversation is now, it's not going to be who we are because nobody has your story, nobody has your experiences. And go outside and experience the world, touch things, smell things, breathe. That's what makes us human. And that's what is the opportunity for us to get back to doing more of.
Yes, I love that you share that because I think some things that I've been frustrated with using AI or seeing it online and seeing, you know, everyone's posts and everything starting to look the same. And just being able to go back and infuse. I've been thinking about doing this challenge for myself, even because it's like I used to do my work, all of it, without AI, like just from my brain, right? And so how can I go back and make sure that the emails I'm sending, the posts I'm doing, that I'm not so heavily relying on AI? And I think it's important, like it's a huge time saver, but I don't wanna lose that connection. I don't wanna start to sound like everyone else. I want to still sound human and share my story. And so the way that I've been doing it is writing down all my thoughts, just like getting it out there and then having AI help refine it.
You
Ah,
know, being able to structure and process your thinking is a great, ChatGPT is your editor or your co-writing buddy, but it is not a substitute for what's inside your head and how you express.
yes. And then having those connections. Like one of my clients the other day, she just said, she goes, I want to learn how you just check in with your people. She goes, "You're so good at that. Like we weren't even working together for almost a year, and every month or every couple weeks, you just checked in and said, 'Hey, how's it going?'"
Mhm.
Because I also thrive on that connection point of I'm in my house all by myself and have 4 little kids, but for the most part, like interacting with adults, that's why I love doing these podcast interviews. I love going in different type of networking events because I still get that connection point. And so for what you're doing and what you're building and how people are recruiting, like, is that different than it was now with AI? Or how are you intertwining the both of them, like AI and that connection point, so they really know who they're hiring? Because I'm sure now you're seeing resumes or things, or like that's just not even who the real person is.
Therein lies the challenge. So many of our observations about where we're at with the technology right now is reminiscent of being the first recruiting firm in LA to focus on .coms in the area. First of all, in a few years, nobody's going to call themselves an AI company. And so many of these things that we're doing right now that feel like this other thing, it's just all going to blend. Just like you don't even really think about, all the apps on your smartphone. They're just kind of baked in, and this is just how you do it. And I talk to Siri in my car, and it's very clunky, old-fashioned AI, but there is some intelligence in it. And so, it just becomes part of the language. We don't think about, oh, I have a question. Let me just Google that. But 30 years ago, we did. So where we are with AI is so different than where we're going to be in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And that very much informed us going to market and saying, okay, what is the future of work? Which is more than just technology, by the way, because we have this inflection point with, climate change and adaptation being more globalized, but, throw some tariffs in the mix and all of a sudden the globalization means you also need to be very hyper localized. The social contract of why we work is very much what you're talking about with connection. Like, we don't just work because we make money and then we go to sleep. I think that there's a lot of people listening to this podcast and out there in the world that has become their life in many ways. Recognizing, no, like going to work 5 days a week in a town you don't live in, and now you never see your children. That is not a model that is successful either. But if the model is you're alone by yourself and your brain just starts to turn into a puddle of jelly because, like, what does it mean? And why am I bothering? And I don't even want to do it. Well, that's not a life either. And so we're just in this massive inflection point that very much informs why we are going to market. And, we're calling it liberated learning.
Mm.
And the reason why is that all of these courses right now and how we're interacting is still very much not the future. It's very software based, even prompt engineering. A lot of these terms were not brought to you by the marketing department or certainly the copywriters of the world. They were brought to you by engineers and scientists. So here's something that is magical and encouraging for us all to truly master AI and to create your authentic humanity while being able to maximize what AI and these other tools are capable of. You actually don't need to be an engineer, and in many ways being an engineer is going to be a detriment. It is, if you are a person who communicates, if you are into language and connection and all of these like authentic human capabilities, then you're going to be able to get your arms around this and master it even more quickly because the way of thinking Imagine that prompt engineering is a conversation with your smart friend who's really interesting. It is the opportunity to not just say, hey, ChatGPT, tell me about me, and then get an output and go, wow, you really know me. And that's the end of the conversation. I mean, how weird would that be if you went and met your friend and you're like, tell me about me. And they talked for 15 minutes and then you're like, okay, thanks, bye. That's not happening. And so that is not actually what everyone needs to learn about how we are interacting with this. Critical thinking. Hey, what am I missing? Did you just tell me something to make me feel good? Can you give me a different perspective on that? Can you like talk to me about this? Tell me where I'm biased. Tell me where you're biased. This is what everything is developing towards.
So, because I think critical thinking is so important. And I was just talking about that with a friend the other day. I think the way that some people are using AI is just doing the thinking for them, right? They're not still adding that, like
The
you
wrong
said.
direction.
Right, right. They have, it's just keep going, keep digging. And that's what I do a lot with the writing that I'm doing. And I use it solely for AI. I know there's so many other things I could do for my business, and I'm getting there. But I keep going. I keep having that conversation. Sometimes I get mad because I'm like, this isn't how humans talk.
Absolutely. Haley, you were brilliant. And you are reinforcing this observation that people that are in liberal arts and media and communication, the artists, so many of the people that have been scared to use this and feeling threatened by it, and everybody who's afraid of math or just hates math, you don't have to be scared of math, but anybody who got shamed in school because they didn't understand math or science, guess what? This is our time to shine because you don't need any of that for the future of work and this era of learning that we're going into. How exciting is that?
Yes, that is so exciting.
And we don't always talk about it. And it does make me sad having this movement of technology that, again, I've helped build. So I get to talk about, my family, like this is my family. So I can tease you and I can criticize you and I can elevate you. That is my relationship with technology and technology startups in general. So with all of that warm hearted spirit in mind, this era of STEM that's been really incredible. And, certainly more women in deep tech and more women in robotics, more women in software all day long. On the other hand, that is not the only way to human. And for many folks, especially your kids, they've grown up in an era that had the internet and they can't imagine there not being an internet. And, if you look at a much, much broader historical context and looking at economies and how economies grow and shift, put the internet away. And then, that's still the human part is very consistent. A million years ago, or whatever number you want to put on there, if we didn't hunt together to get food, then we didn't survive. And in the more recent history, we have developed this competitive and threat energy around each other, and then throw some isolation in the mix, and it exacerbates that, right? And then throw us being women in the mix, and we come out of the womb going like, "Wow, the world is scary," and somebody might try to, so we got to walk with our keys in our hands, and like, it's just innate, right? Imagine a world that we looked at everyone and each other as potential collaborators and allies.
Mm, yes.
Change the mindset. So we're looking at AI and we are being told that AI is a threat. So imagine that AI is not the threat. Imagine that AI gets to be your collaborator and your spirit animal, and it's there to help you. And by the way, these are tools that learn, they're not actually software. They're learning. We're learning. AI is like a toddler right now. And so if we ignore it and neglect it, it's going to be a bad adult. If we abuse it, there's trauma. We have a great opportunity as people to learn more about ourselves and to enable better learning so that we can all be more authentically human and the whole thing elevates. That's why we dream more.
You talked about this liberated learning. So, is there something different that you're doing at Dreamore that would maybe help the listeners in how they're building their businesses or how they're going out into the world and connecting with others?
In no particular area, because Dreamore, by the very nature of it, words are powerful. And so the spirit of unlimited thinking, it reminds me as a business owner to not put limits on myself. On the other hand, being too unlimited can be a burden. So we always try to take all of this in the cloud thinking and go, okay, well, what are some practical, what do I do today? And so I would encourage everybody interact with these tools. Master prompting is learning, and don't be afraid of that. And when you go into that, if you're not doing it already, do this on a daily basis and, you know, have some critical thinking on it. And there's no wrong in it. It's just like riding a bike. We need to get back to so many things as children, where children are, putting things in their mouth and they're touching everything and they're you crawling around and this is another thing that's happened to us in this era of being a grown up and being on screens all day. We've forgotten how to human like kids do. And so when you're in a chat GPT or a Claude or Perplexity or Gemini session, just ask a dumb question or go why. You know how 3-year-olds learn because they're like, why, but why is the sky blue? And then we're like, oh God, why is the sky blue?
Yes.
So if this is a conversation, so every day, this is what I'm saying. Every day, take 5 minutes and then just ask why. And whatever the output is, ask why did you give me that answer? Start with that. See what happens.
Mhm.
And then in terms of liberated learning, it was very purposeful that we didn't want to say, we're going to upskill laborers and we're going to teach you some AI tools so that you can 10x your income. There's a lot on the market right now that is offering that. And the challenge is that, first of all, we've heard it all before. And if everybody was 10xing everything, then, but also I've built many, many tech companies and I know tech billionaires. And I got to tell you, you get to the top and then you still don't feel everything and it's meaningless. So I don't think the goal for being authentically human is I need to make 6 figures or $1 million or $10 million. If that is the outcome of your authentic efforts and you have genuine relationships, good on you. And I've done that, and it is beautiful when you do it correctly. But if that is your only goal and it's soulless, I'm just warning everybody that that's a path to more sadness and more bills too. The opportunity with liberated learning is to ultimately impact your mindset in a way that we want to feel better about this. We want to feel connected. We want to have the freedom. If all this software was giving us all of our time back, we wouldn't be working so many hours or working so many hours and then suddenly unemployed for 2 years, like a lot of people in our industry have become. So somewhere in the middle of that is, what makes us people and, survive together. And then let's lean into that.
And something that I do with all the people that come into my program is we start with their why and what's their mission behind what they're doing. Because
Connect is my God.
that's because, yes, like what you said, it's so important. You can make millions of dollars, but if you're not connected to why you're doing what you're doing or you have that bigger mission, you're still not going to feel that success. You're still not going to feel that happiness. And also, you're just not going to be working in a way that's aligned with who you are and how you want to show up. So I'm so glad that you said that. And in my head, I'm like, ooh, there is so many ways I feel that we could collaborate. So we're going to have to keep this conversation going after this.
Just to give a little quick backstory on the double Phoenix energy, the Malibu Dream House and, being highly ranked in Forbes and building all of these startups and having events and art day and music day and circus day. And so it was community and it was business and it was joy. And then it all came burning to the ground rather famously in the Woolsey fire in 2018. I shut everything down in 2019 because I just realized that I needed to focus on healing. What happens when you're self-made in the 1% and then you lose everything. But the good news is I didn't lose the relationships. I had more beds to sleep in and food and clothing than, I had bodies and heads to do that. And it meant so much and reinforced all of it. And then here we are, coming out with the new name Dreamore and doing all of this work, purpose led. not just tech, but let's build companies and careers that are meaningful and have purpose. That was literally why it became Dreamore instead. And then here we are in January, and the next property burns to the ground. And it was the opportunity to be tested. I suffered and I lost and I healed. And how much does this really, how much did that really reinforce? And so this is a message that I tell everybody, and why we are leaning so heavily into what are the opportunities with AI and technology to reconnect with our purpose. Was all of that energy of, okay, it all burned again, but I'm so strong. Let me take the power back. This is transformation energy. And so a lot of people right now, and understandably, there's so much fear and there's so much uncertainty. And we just want to go back to normal because that feels safe. While at the same time, it's like I can't spin back those fires. So I had to just embrace this and go, okay, well, this is transformation energy. So instead of looking behind me and wanting to go back to that, that's not even an option. So let's look forward to the future and say, okay, well, we actually affect the future. Do we want a dystopian and elitist future? Or do we want one that makes us feel like people and we all work together towards a greater purpose? So that's what the double phoenix energy is about. And anybody who can put that in their soul and then take action from it, it's all going to be better.
Yes. And I remember the first time that I met you was a few months back, and you had talked about this resilience and how people kept saying, "Oh, you're so resilient," and I think it was really great the way that you shared it and kind of had just this realization of what you were just talking about. Like,
Yeah.
what if instead we're looking to the future? We can't change what happened. And how can we look at it as an experience? Like, yes, I am resilient. What am I going to do with this? So I just love if you could share a little bit more, because I think that was really powerful. I don't know why it just stood out to me when you had said it when we were first in that call together. And
Thank you so much. And yeah, since we first met and now I've spent the last 2 months shooting out signals and saying, anyone who wants to talk about the future of work and AI, let's just have a conversation. You want to talk about authentic human communication or connection. This has taken up so much energy where I realized I could have just taken the month off and just breathed. But instead, I just wanted to talk to people individually and see what people are saying and thinking. PhDs, university professors, students, inner city workers, anybody that wanted to talk about it. So the encouragement was that, okay, well, there's a lot more people that are having a positive outlook and determined than I realized. So it's not all bad. The resilience, though, the first fire, and I've seen this with other people in the Palisades and Eaton fires that are first time fire sufferers. It's about you. And that makes sense because this horrible thing happened. And all you can think about is, why did this happen to me? And I don't like it and I'm in pain. The resilience for the first fire, anytime somebody would say that about me, I was just like, "Man," I wanted to go back and hide in the closet like a little girl. It's just like, leave me alone. Like, that's such a lame term. So to be able to reframe it this time and people say, wow, you're so resilient. And instead of making it about me, accepting that, yes, I am resilient, but I'm not being resilient just for myself. I'm being resilient because that is something that we should all show for each other. That's the opportunity. Like, no matter what's knocking you down, if you got laid off or you had cancer or lost a parent, a lot of people have lost people lately. And that doesn't have to be your story. That is your experience. But what is your story? Because you get to decide what your story is.
yes, that's really powerful.
Your AI tools can help. AI can never tell your story. But if AI takes a lot of the mundane stuff away from you that is cluttering your mind, then you actually get to free up your creativity and imagination and process your experiences so your story gets better.
I've been reading a lot on that and trying to just have more free time to just think. Like when I go on my daily walks, I'm trying to just put my phone away. It used to be my time to listen to books and listen to podcasts, but I just want to think. I just want to be and be out in nature and think and dream and do all of the things. And so I'm really trying hard to shift into that because I do fully believe like sometimes we just need to unplug because the more space we give ourselves, the more creative ideas, the more things that we're just capable of. And so I think that's, um, yeah, just really amazing the way that you explained it and showing that we are capable of a lot and we can do more. So, how can we use AI to free up that time to help us get those big ideas?
So much of this conversation that we're having right now and this way of looking at the world, it's a combination of, I'm a garden girl and a nature girl. So, you know, I look at my plants constantly, and I'm sure somebody that doesn't view the world this way would go like, who's the crazy person that keeps leaving her desk and just literally staring at vegetables and green and then going back to work and feeling better? This is how our brains are formed. I'm a neuroscience nerd, and there's a whole bunch of mind hacks, but one of them at its most basic is things that are close to us and moving are either food or they want to eat us. And so we are in a constant state of low level anxiety when we are constantly looking at the screens and there's all of this flickering and movement. It's really close to us, just on a basic neuroscience level. It informs why, besides eye strain and all these other reasons, you need to look away and you need to look at things that are far away. I look by the ocean, look at the forest, look at the sky, just look up at the sky. The sky is really far away, and if you do that regularly, it resets. Anything that's that far away is not food and it's not going to eat you. So you're like, ah, nothing to worry about.
Ooh, I like that. And yes, I am so total outdoors, but unlike you, I am in Wisconsin, so I don't get as much outdoor time in the winter. But I try to, now that it's getting nice, I try to go out and work on my deck. I just built, I shouldn't say I built, my husband and my father and family helped build a massive garden outside. So I'm going to try to keep everything alive until it's time to harvest. But just being outdoors more, and like you said, looking away from the screen, even if you're sitting down and you have to be there for hours, looking away, looking outside, looking out.
Absolutely. We are weaving into our liberated learning the self care bits, the human bits. Even you're going to get bonus points if you do some deep breathing or go outside, or for our in-person sessions, we partner with the Illusion Lounge around the corner. So we're going to take a break and we're going to go put you on stage and you're going to tell a joke in a microphone, even if it's a bad joke. It doesn't matter. It's just things that people do as people, and then come back and we'll learn more together. If you're telling people how to be human, that's one thing, but it is through experiences, right? It's our experiences that make our stories. It's our time away from the screen and just letting our brains work that help us reframe that. All of these things are just so vital. That is where we are offering people liberated learning. It is ultimately towards this goal of being authentically human. And then, yeah, guess what? You'll be more productive. There are so many things that you can do to make money and feed your family, and all of that stuff is all true. So we are still in a capitalist world where we appreciate that you need to pay your bills and all that. But if that is the only thing that you're focused on and you're scared, then we just want to help people get out of that trap and feel connected. This magic.
Yes. And I think that segues perfect in how I always like to close out these episodes and asking, what does success look like for you? How do you define success? And maybe how it's been different in the past.
You know, I love this question. And I don't know that I've defined it differently my entire adult life, because I am an artist at heart. And so the fact that I've accidentally become successful financially and otherwise was really a result of just being this tightly wound, hyper productive, honestly, scarcity mentality kind of person. I've never been wanting to compete with other companies and be better than them, but I think it happens with a lot of successful women that the reality is we want to take care of everybody even more than ourselves. So we just don't want to run out. So then we can't stop. Success is a phone call away from solving any problem that comes to me.
Ooh, I haven't heard that one before. Okay, go deeper. Explain more.
What that means is money doesn't always solve the problem. But if you have the right people, then somewhere in all of those relationships, you can solve your problem. I had a husband, his snarky way of saying it is, if you're in jail at 2 in the morning, do you have somebody you can call for bail money and they're not even going to ask questions or judge you?
That's great.
The world is complex. And, again, money doesn't always solve it. But when you can look around, it's this concept that by the time it's your funeral and everybody there for you is beautiful and kind and interesting and empathetic. And it's a room full of them, isn't that what everybody would want? We don't want the Ebenezer Scrooge, future funeral. We want the, wow, what a beautiful life. And I will live on in these memories from people who have kindness in their heart. So success is all about that and that feeling.
I so appreciate you sharing and coming on here today. And I will have all of your links in the show notes. But where can people find you, learn more about this liberating learning and working with you?
Absolutely. So, Annemarie Penny on LinkedIn, I accept any connection that reaches out to me. I post there pretty much daily in terms of these concepts around liberated learning and the future of work, as well as job opportunities and events that we moderate or keynote speak, as well as hosting here at our location in Santa Monica, Dreamore on 3rd. Anyone in this local area or who's visiting, please look us up because we would love to have you involved, whether you're a women diversity or purpose led kind of person, an investor or real estate developer. If you're a good human, we want you in our circle. You can also go to dreamore.io, DREAMORE.io, and that'll link you to everything else. Liberated Learning is liberatedlearn.ing, and that'll be launching any minute.
Yay. Well, I'm so excited for you and all the things to come. Thank you again. I had so much fun chatting with you.
Thank you, Haley.